Welcome to the Copy Talk podcast. Discussions in this show should not be construed as specific recommendations or investment advice. Always consult with your investment professional before making important investment decisions. Securities offered through registered representatives of Cambridge Investment Research Incorporated, a broker-dealer member, FINRA SIPC. Advisory services through Cambridge Investment Research Advisors Incorporated, a registered investment advisor. Financial planning services through Lighthouse Financial, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Shannon Ross is CEO and managing partner of Lighthouse Financial. Lighthouse and Cambridge are not affiliated. And now, here's your host, Shannon Ross.
Well, welcome, Copy Talk audience, to the second version of Copy Talk video.
Yes.
Copy Talk Live.
We are fancy
Recorded.
today.
We are official.
Yeah.
Welcome, everyone.
Yeah.
We are excited for you to join in our little coffee room today for Copy Talk.
Yeah.
So, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you feeling?
I'm a little, it's so different.
It is different.
It is so different. I'm used to Matt being over here, and now my friend Matt, our producer, is over here.
That's
I don't know what
right.
to do with this. Hi, Matt. Hi. And we have Kelly, who is, we have so many people to thank for this room this morning.
we
And how
do.
amazing this looks.
We do.
Kelly,
And now
Chris.
we can engage with all of you as
I know.
well. So,
Yeah.
it's a big day for us.
It is. And we've been laughing all morning already.
We have.
Yeah.
We were talking about we were creating a blooper reel, but we need a clean version and probably an unclean version.
Right.
Not that we're dirty or
Well, you have
crude.
made some comments this morning, sister. Like
we had some wardrobe
we had some
issues.
wardrobe
We had
issues
some-
going on. Yeah,
but we are
that's
all put
okay.
together now.
We
so-
are. You are.
Well, we'll see how that long lasts.
Yeah, I'll let you know. The wink and a smile. I'll let
how
you
it
know.
goes. Yes. Well, this week we are kicking off and continuing on this whole journey that is all about the empowerment side of what we're doing here. As many of you know, or if you've ever been to our website, we kind of focus on two tracks. We focus on empowerment of people and increasing people's financial knowledge, financial savviness. And so the reason why we focus on two tracks is, in my experience, because I own my own financial firm, I meet with hundreds and hundreds of clients every year. You have to have both. You can't if you are all financial savvy with no kind of emotional intelligence.
Right.
I see this every day with a lot of advisors that have come across my path through the years. They might have all the technical financial knowledge, but they have not made some significant changes in their own lives.
Right.
So they don't have two dimes to rub together for their own retirement or wealth management. And on the flip side, sometimes people say, I live paycheck to paycheck. I don't care about financial advice because that's just not for me. It's never been me.
Right.
I'm I can barely pay my bills or what have you. And I actually brought an article today, which I thought was kind of important to address that.
Okay.
And I'm getting a little in front of myself, but so I'll share this and then I want to hear a
You're
little bit
excited
more about
today.
I am excited.
You
today.
are.
I have
look at all.
I have all the notes.
Well, and look at mine.
And you have all the non-notes.
I have
on
the
your
non-notes.
side.
I do have a couple things on my phone, so I will be looking at my phone
That's
occasionally,
right.
but not to that extent that you do.
Yes, and so if you don't have any savviness, and say you get, everyone thinks like the lottery, right? We hear a lot about the lottery sometimes. Of hey, if I just won the lottery, all my problems would go away. I would be set for life. And I actually did some research on this because,
To be fair, we're not against the lottery.
No.
The lottery would help some certain areas. I'm just speaking
So
for the
I'll share
audience
this
here.
along as we go along today and in the coming weeks. But 70% of those that win the lottery or have some kind of what's called a windfall, a large inheritance, something significant monetarily that changes their life, file bankruptcy within 3 years.
I've heard that before. I
So
don't know
it's
that it was
not just about the
70%
cash
though.
either. So
Wow.
it's not just about the knowledge and it's not just about the cash. It's about both, bringing them together. And that's, I think, what makes us different is I listen to financial shows and I'm bored and I'm in the industry. I can't stand them. That's the last thing I want to spend time on, right?
I don't listen to any other financial.
And that's why I went in this industry is I wanted it to be approachable to everyone. I wanted it to be practical. I wanted it to also better people. So not just financially, but kind of like their overall well-being. So that's what we're doing here.
I know. I like it.
So, as we kick off today's show, I think you had a sanity spend. So, for those who don't know, sanity spends are little excuses that we spend money on ourselves to give ourselves a break, a reward, a treat, whatever, because that's important to our well-being. So, what did you get to do this week?
I was not even going to bring this up.
I know.
Well, on Monday, my sweet husband let me I got a room at a nice hotel in Denver. It's called My Mommy Overnights. That's what they're called. And yeah, so I went and I go and I take like all the like facial masks things that you can think of, and I order room service, and I'm an introvert, so that's like heaven.
Mm-hmm.
I just hang out and order room service and do a clay mask and then another mask and then And my son saw me packing for it and he was like, what is this? Like I have one that is, have you seen the ones that are like rubber that you put on your face? Like they're like rubber.
I think I have seen
They're
that.
amazing. Don't knock them. So I highly recommend them.
scary.
My son was like, what is that? I'm like, it goes on my face. He's like, I just can see that, but it's rubber. Anyways,
Does it come off your face?
Yeah, it does eventually. I actually called them. I FaceTime he and my son that night while I had it on. And I took a selfie, which I never take, to send to them in my rubber blue mask. And they thought that was strange. But anyways, it was lovely. It was a good time.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fun.
It was a good time.
I'm proud of you.
Yeah, thanks.
Because you have to be intentional about that stuff.
Yeah, well, and it was a Monday, which I never do
Yeah.
that on a Monday.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a very spontaneous. I
You
don't
even
usually
take
spontaneous
vacation
on the
day.
weekend.
Yeah.
I'm not typically spontaneous during the week, so that's a new one for me.
Yeah.
So
That's
yeah,
good.
yeah,
I'm
it was a
proud
good
of
time.
you.
Thanks.
That's exciting.
I don't know about
Aw.
exciting, but it was fun.
Well, good.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure that will help one of your EQ assessment tracks that we're working on.
Oh, yeah.
So let's talk
It's
about
good.
a little bit, because you also had a big deal this week of you
I
took
did.
the EQ
I
assessment.
Well, I got my results this week.
Yeah. And again, oftentimes people are like, I don't care about assessments or tests. That's just another thing. They're wrong. They're not researched enough to be validated. What I like about anything we do on the show, we research it, we test it, we use it in our own lives, we use it in clients' lives before we ever introduce it to anyone listening.
Right, of course.
So it's proven. And what I'm very careful of including in our mix here is if it doesn't help someone become a better version of themselves, it's not worth the time. It's not worth our time. It's not worth your time.
No, of course not.
So when we talk about things like this, we're trying to build kind of a whole new acumen for people, like a whole new vocabulary to name things that might be going on in your life, what to do about them. Oftentimes you find people are stuck for decades. And they're stuck because they can't name it properly. They don't know what to do about it.
Right.
They just feel the effects of it. And so when I wanted to kind of bring a psychology background into the financial realm, this was important to me because, again, you need both. You need to understand yourself behaviorally, and you need to make sure that you're equipped with the right knowledge or acumen that allows you to have the tools at hand to make some better decisions.
Yeah.
To, make sure that as many factors are working towards your betterment instead of against you. Life throws enough things against you.
For sure.
We don't need to help it.
Yeah.
And
you took the EQ again. For a
I did.
second
I took it
time.
in 2017. I took it again because, again, we put our, money where our mouth is. We
Right.
do our own, we eat our own cooking, as they say.
Yeah.
And I took it again this week with you as well.
Yeah.
So it was interesting to see my overall, it's scored to give you an idea where you rank. We're not going to talk about scores here, but my score was a point difference. So really statistically no difference at all. But what was interesting to me, and that we'll talk through as we go through this week for the next several weeks, is what went up and what went down. And so it was interesting because EQ, we've talked about this. We talked about this on last week's show. Your IQ does not change.
Right.
It's kind of something that you're born with. And it doesn't really all measure all that much. I'm sure there's a lot of people who would argue with me there, but your EQ is far more interesting to me, your emotional intelligence, because it can change. It can get better. It can get worse. It's a very good barometer, like a temperature of where you are at this moment when you took this.
Well, can I say this? And I
absolutely.
won't go over my scores. I know for those who listen to previous shows, we probably seem to have maybe, and you'll jump in here in a minute, I know, but we maybe overpromised and underdelivered in this spectrum. And what I mean by that is I'm like, oh yeah, I'll give my results on the podcast. No, I am taking that back. So
you have a retraction.
Grace, please. I'm making a retraction. But I will say this. I got my results this week, and it impacted me far more than I actually thought it would. And I like these kind of tests. I said this last time, that I enjoy MBTI. I enjoy Enneagram. I like these types of assessments. This one read my mail. Definitely read my mail. And we only went through the first 2 composites. And I know that you'll go into that definition in a minute.
Yeah.
But it helped. It was extremely eye-opening for me. It is the best assessment I have ever taken. And it was a moment of being able to identify something that I've never been able to articulate. So areas in me emotionally, and we only got through the first 2, but areas in me emotionally that I absolutely, when your husband, because he is certified, was going through some of these, when he started to explain these first few and walk through what that means, and I know you'll go into that in a minute as well, but I'll be honest, audience, I was a little wrecked for a moment. Like, not wrecked in a bad way. Like, that's such a volatile term, but I mean, I was taken aback.
Yes.
I was very taken aback at how, because your husband is great. He'll say, if this doesn't resonate, let me know. Sure. Like, we are not trying to say, this is stone cold. It's gospel, right? So, but I was like, no, that's me.
It felt true to yourself.
Oh my,
of who yourself is.
But I've never been able to go, I know there's these areas in me that I really want to work on that I know, but I couldn't articulate them. And which means for those of you out there, they're like, yeah, when I can't articulate and I don't know, but I feel like something's wrong, I don't want to, how do you even try to plan or work on something you can't even identify? So let's move on, numb it down, suppress it, put it away. Hello, that's me. And that brought so much to the surface and started to, and you said it earlier, it started to till up some callous ground in me that I think maybe I had built some walls over. And I'm not trying to get too deep because we're not going to go over my scores, but it was, if you, to be able to articulate and put language to something that I need to go here. It was, but I felt empowered. I did not, and I know we use that word a lot, so I'm not trying to, but I didn't feel hopeless about it. I didn't feel defeated. It felt enlightening, and it was like, okay, if I can articulate it now, I can do something about it.
Maybe because you felt stuck in that area, maybe.
What you just said about being
how
stuck
to name
is
it,
perfect way to
what
say
to do about it. And so if it helps you get a language, yes, naming it doesn't heal it, but naming it, I feel oftentimes is the first step in your journey of healing in that area.
For sure.
Because how can you heal around something you can't even name?
Yeah.
You don't know what it is.
For sure. Yeah.
And so I loved that you said that. And I love that was your experience because, we often get very good at compartmentalizing what we're willing to work on and what we're not willing to work on because it's hard or uncomfortable or there's painful. There's pain there. But what's interesting psychologically is pain is the biggest motivator for change. We often will not make a change in our life until the pain is at a certain level where we have no choice.
Well, I think it's because it's kind of your fight or flight.
Yes.
Like if I can't, but I think people will say to themselves, if I can't find a resolution to this, then move on.
Sure.
But I feel like EQ, at least the way that I learned it on Tuesday.
This is the way we are equipping you all
and that
with
was just an hour and a half. That was not all of you. I mean, we have more to go. It was, okay, I can work on these things and I can find a resolution. Resolution may not be the right word, but.
Or a plan of attack.
Yeah.
Of how to increase.
Yeah.
In your area there, if you test below the average, and it gives you, what I do like about that it is a score, it gives you a barometer of, at between 1 and 100, if 100 is kind of where my optimal zone is for me. Right. And if I'm a 66 on something, okay, I got some work to do.
Yeah.
I don't want to just turn a blind eye because it almost gives you navigational skills, similar to a pilot flying a plane.
Right.
You want your plane to land somewhere in your destiny, what your heart's desires are, where you had your hopes and dreams planned for.
Right.
If you have no tools to help you get there, these are very practical tools, like a navigational panel in an airplane. Yeah. And so
so I'm excited because you haven't told me much of what actually you're going to talk about. I mean, I know about, right? So are you giving us some practice? Are we going to go through a composite today? Are you going to identify some of because I think our audience, especially last week, we laid the groundwork. And this week I'm hoping, or We're gonna
We're
get more nitty gritty.
We are going to get a little nitty gritty. And the call to action here through this show and several shows upcoming, the call to action, if you want to participate with us, as you hear this, if you want to take the assessment, we're going to make it available for anyone who messages us on our website, copytalkpodcast.com, and we will go through what your options are. And we're actually going to be creating empowerment classes of those who want to go in a deep training, like you and I are participating outside this podcast to train, to educate ourselves for this.
The EQ test and not do anything.
Yes. Yeah. And so we're going to have multiple tracks for you all. If you're interested in, man, that sounds interesting, I want to do that. To be honest, we run a consulting firm. You hear it in some of our commercials. Unify Consulting is my consulting firm. And I mean, my husband, he gets paid about $5,000 a day training on this. Yeah. So we're going to make it very economical for listeners to be able to take the assessment and participate in some live classes with us, some online classes with us, if they want to participate. Because, a lot of businesses or a lot of stay-at-home people don't have those kind of, that cash just to dedicate to this stuff.
Right.
This is why we put it on the show, is because we want to make it readily available for the masses. Yeah. For those who are interested.
This would be very helpful for marriages as well. Just
FYI,
gosh. Listener.
Yeah, this has nothing to. Yes, finance ties in, but so does every single relationship.
Yeah, this isn't just about money
and what's going on in your head.
Yeah,
and that's what we're going to kick off today, and that's why I named the show "Mirror, Mirror on the Wall."
I love that name
because this is very much about today. The first composite, the first kind of category we're talking about, is all about self-perception. So that is the first one, a part of EQ, and it's honestly, we think, is the most important one, because if your self-perception is off, everything around you is off. It doesn't matter. You're not going to make good decisions. You're not going to be very strong in your interpersonal skills. You're going to have difficulty with stress management. You're going to be kind of in more of emotional turmoil, emotional distress, if you don't have an accurate and good self-perception. Yeah. Again, what's going on between your ears? What's going on when it's just you?
What's going on
me, myself, and
I.
This
mess right here. This is a hot mess right up in here.
And this assessment gives you a good picture if it's a hot mess or not.
Oh, it did for sure. Anybody want to guess where I scored low? Show of hands. Sorry. Okay, keep going.
But it's eye-opening. And this is one I have found that can change the most. Because if you are someone out there, if you're one of our listeners and you're going through a hard time, if you've been through, a betrayal, if you've been through a death in the family, if you've lost someone close to you, if you've gone through some kind of traumatic event recently, you're going to be low in this area because it's also circumstantial.
Yeah. Remember? Yeah, we did.
When I look at my results in this area of EQ, because I took it in 2017, I went through probably a 6-year period where my world fell apart. It was close to a nervous breakdown because I had stuffed a lot of this for a long time. And there was a trauma that happened that wrecked me and kind of blew me up from the inside out. And so I took this about 3 years into that journey, and I took it again recently. And so to see different scores changing is, when I was closer to the trauma, my self-perception was still off because I was still healing. When things go pear-shaped, it affects your self-worth. It reflects on your self-regard. And so, I can see, and in some of these, because I took it going through a very intensive, self-introspective time in my life, some of these actually are higher in 2017 than now because I've gotten a little lazy. I'm not going to counseling every week.
Well, explain to people what you mean when you say higher. I know it's because I don't.
Yeah. So let's say let's use just, and these aren't the actual scores, but on a scale from 1 to 100, if 100-ish is your goal, you're going to be on that scale.
So 100's average. Would you say 100 is average?
Is actually average. Okay. Yes. And we'll talk about if people are over 100 in some of these, and that might be okay for me. It might not be okay for you to be over 100 on some of these because we're each different. But the average goal is to get to 100 is kind of the hey, if you're near or close 100 on either side of the fence by, say 5 or 5-ish, standard deviation of 5. you're pretty good on the EQ scale. Like you're emotionally intelligent.
How high does the scale go?
I believe the highest cap is 140.
Okay, so if you're a 140,
That
because
doesn't
you don't want to
mean
be
that it's better.
Okay,
like,
you're
and
not
that's why
smarter
again, we
if
talked
you're
about
that.
last
Okay.
week a soundboard,
Okay.
and we have a soundboard in our room right now that Matt works on.
Yeah.
It's has like 100 million dials on it because it's not just about one knob. It's about how the knobs work together to produce the best sounds. These are how do these knobs all work together to produce the best you.
Yeah.
So some of them that I've gotten lazy on are higher, but that's an indication of laziness. So that's why we're going to go slow because I don't want people to be confused or frustrated. I want people to be like, that's interesting. So you can start to at least, if you don't want to take the assessment, that's totally fine. But you can start asking yourself some questions and verify, that's an area that I know that's low. And if we talk about plans of how can people that are too high or too low, what can they do? If you identify in this area, you can apply some of these things.
Well, what I hope for with the listener, just so everybody knows, and we're going to go through this and move through this a lot more slowly than I think maybe we even anticipated or that you anticipated. I know after our meeting on Tuesday, I looked at your husband, I was like, whoa, like that's why you don't want to, nobody should fly through this.
His training on this takes about 3 days. So,
yeah,
I mean,
it's a
full time.
Yeah.
So,
I want, hopefully, as you start to move through these composites and we start to go through some of these examples, my hope for the listener is that they're going to hear some of this and it's not your EQ score, but some of this may start to resonate to where it, at least in a very minimal way, you'll start to identify,
we're going to simplify
that could be
it.
me.
So that if you do want to do something more full blown on this, then we'll have avenues to do that.
Yeah.
But this is, kind of a dumbed down version, kind of a more approachable version that can be digested in little half-hour snippets.
It's a little more palatable.
Yeah. So, and we don't want it to be intimidating or we don't want it to be dismissed.
No.
Because again, I would not include something on the show if I didn't see it in people's lives, bettering their lives, giving them more tools to be successful in their relationships and in their finances, all those things. So that's our filter here.
Yeah.
And so when we go through self-perception, there are 3 skills that make up your self-perception.
So self-perception is the first composite, right?
It is.
Okay.
Yes. It's the first category.
Category,
composite, they're all synonyms. Yeah.
Okay. Got it.
So of self-perception, I'm going to name the 3 and then we'll go into each one. Self-regard, self-actualization, and emotional self-awareness. Those are the 3 skills that make up what your self-perception is. Okay?
Okay.
So self-regard, a little self-explanatory, right? Self-regard. How do you regard yourself? How do you think about yourself between those ears?
Yeah.
What do you think about when it's just you?
Yeah. Didn't your husband say this is when you are by yourself?
By yourself.
When it's
That's
just
right.
you and you.
Yep.
What are
This
you
is all
thinking
about your inner feelings. What do you think about your strengths and weaknesses? What do you think
value.
about value,
Worth.
doubts versus confidence, negative talk versus positive talk.
Yep.
This is a good, if you have low self-regard, here's how you know it. There's a lot of negative self-talk going on repeat. I'm not worth anything. People have treated me bad. If they treat me bad, then I must be bad.
Yes.
Especially those who have been close to you.
Yeah.
In my counseling world, this is one of the hardest pillars to fall. I work with a lot of believers and non-believers out there, and it doesn't matter that this self-regard, self-worth is I think one of the most difficult things to flip the switch. You can believe something far more easier for someone else than you can for yourself.
Yeah.
Especially if those closest to you, if a spouse has hurt you, if your parents have hurt you, that really that resonates in a deeper core level that just doesn't correct
because they were
overnight
supposed to be the ones that loved you the most, took care of you, protected you, provided for you. And this can also be, your husband mentioned that day, if you are one that thinks about the past a lot, if you have a lot of regret. So this could be some mistakes you made in the past that you just cannot get over. And because those were bad mistakes, you must still be bad now, which means you aren't worth having friends. You aren't worth having a spouse. You aren't worth being treated well or valued highly.
That's right.
Yeah, that was I liked when he made that statement because that was very eye-opening for me.
And you might be walking through something right now. So it could be about the past. It could be something you're going through right now. So again, that's why the EQ changes. And as you heal from whatever has gone on or whatever is going on right now, you can increase in that self-regard. You can increase in that self-worth. And it looks different of, first you verify, okay, does this feel right? Do I feel like, man, I'm still living in the past? And man, I don't think very highly of myself. Like I put myself down even far more than others around me put me down, is a way. Or on the flip side, do I think too highly of myself?
Am I arrogant?
Does everyone in the room, can they not stand me? But I love myself. You know what I mean?
Of course, if they probably don't know that other people in the room don't like them.
They don't. And that's actually part of self-perception that we're gonna hit on. So again, if my score comes out and I'm a 50, that means I have low self-regard. If I think too highly of myself, if I come out as a 140 on self-regard, that's not good news either, because that means I'm that guy or I'm that gal who no one can stand me because of how arrogant I am, but I love me. Love me some me. I'm the narcissist in the room that no one else likes.
Well, you're the know-it-all.
That's right.
Yeah, and you don't know that everybody else doesn't like you because you think you're so awesome.
Totally. Or like, why do you think I've done something wrong? I do everything right. Yeah. It's a blind spot.
Yeah.
It's a blind spot if you're too high on your self-regard. So you maybe need to take some humble pills, and so I found that on my scores, self-regard, as I went through kind of my healing journey, and I was able to put a plan in place that it took years and a lot of belief in things that I could believe for others, but not in myself or for myself. But because of that time and I had no choice, I had to face these things kind of head on, that my self-regard did increase, because I was able to finally believe things for myself that I was believing for others, through my faith, through scriptures that I had memorized and meditated on, and really not just learned, but learned in my heart. That made a huge difference.
Well, and let's not forget, you happened to meet a very awesome person, a very close friend.
That is right.
During that time. I'm pretty sure that's when this person, she walked into your life. So I would like to think that I made
redemption. I'm not kidding, because for what I went through, I never wanted another friend again, because I had been betrayed quite significantly by a friend. And so I had wanted nothing to do with anyone else forever. And I made that clear in my prayers, in my stamp on my forehead, like whatever.
I was like, you're going to be my friend,
right?
You're going to like me no matter what.
Yeah. And it was funny that, someone we mutually trusted knew us, and hey, you should get together. And we had some commonalities of our life walks. And I think it was a divine meeting of the Lord knew, like, hey, wait until you see how I'm going to redeem this area. And that did. Yeah. That was also a factor of helping.
For what it's worth, listener, my self-regard is not really that I think I'm so awesome and so amazing in Shannon's life. I just do recall the time period. That's all I wanted to point out.
Yes. And for those of you who it's resonating for low self-regard, I really encourage you.
Oh, yeah. Can I ask?
Absolutely.
We're running low on time, but
yeah.
Is there a male versus female? Is there like a statistic?
There's not, which is so interesting to me, because it does not.
I know what my knee-jerk reaction is.
There's no difference in terms of male versus female
in the self-regard area. That's shocking to me. That's surprising. Okay.
No, I think in different sex, like SEC sex,
SECT, right?
Segments, short for segments of different populations that could, not be true. We did one of these assessments at a financial firm a few years back, and all the husbands were off the charts for self-regard, and all their wives in the room were very low. And we had a very honest conversation with them, being like, really? What's some cultural things going on here? Because this is a commonality that's not okay, that needs to be addressed. You know, and so yes. So in certain segments that could absolutely be true, but across the board, it is not true.
Okay.
And what's interesting also is when EQ is studied through your life, it does show statistically that you do get better with age, but ages 50 to 54, there's like a little dip.
That's what Justin said on Tuesday.
And there's some hypothesis out there that, you know, the midlife crisis is a real thing. Mm-hmm. And that's also the highest rate of divorce is in that age range of 50 to 54. Yeah. So it's like kind of this personal crisis mode of like, I don't know who I am. I have low, you know, like everything goes wonky.
I can see that.
For a season, it can. Yeah. And this, I think, helps prevent those kind of blips.
For sure.
Because this is about self-awareness, getting to know yourself. What am I capable of? What am I working towards?
Well, you might as well get to know yourself because everywhere you go, there you are.
That's
so
right.
You might as well.
That's right. Wherever you can't escape it. And we were talking on the way to the show here, how sometimes it feels like easier to numb or easier to escape yourself than to really deal with your junk.
I'd rather be numb in some, if I can't articulate it and I can't identify it, just to be quite transparent, I'd rather be able to numb it.
That's right.
Because I'd rather not feel the pain than feel hopelessness or to feel defeated or to feel like there could be this much wrong with me. If I can't if I don't even know how to work on that, I'd rather numb myself to it and move on another
So what's in your coffee cup this morning?
None of your business. Listen,
just kidding.
There's nothing wrong with. It's like brunch hour, isn't that when people have mimosas? Okay, no, it's coffee. It is coffee, Matt. It's coffee.
Just saying.
You saw it. Yeah.
I know. So, well, good. Well, that is our first dive into this. We will tackle more next week. We'll finish self-perception next week.
It's a good thing this isn't an afternoon show, though. I'm just saying. Or an evening show. Okay.
Tables might have been turned a little bit. That's right.
Yeah.
Well, good. Well, thank you for listening, audience. Thank you for joining us now on YouTube. We have a channel launching this week, copytalkpodcast.com, our URL. If you are finding interest in this, let us know.
Please.
If you want to participate in an assessment and a class, let us know. Just come to our website. Easy peasy. So we will tackle more next week.
I know. I'm excited for next week.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Bye.
Discussions in this show should not be construed as specific recommendations or investment advice. Always consult with your investment professional before making important investment decisions. Securities offered through registered representatives of Cambridge Investment Research Incorporated, a broker-dealer member FINRA SIPC. Advisory services through Cambridge Investment Research Advisors Incorporated, a registered investment advisor. Financial planning services through Lighthouse Financial LLC, a registered investment advisor. Shannon Ross is CEO and managing partner of Lighthouse Financial. Lighthouse and Cambridge are not affiliated.